Night falls over a small town in New Mexico. The wind moves dust along a narrow street. A wooden sign hangs and creaks. Lincoln. Most people see only a quiet frontier town. But in the late 1870s, Lincoln is not quiet at all. It is a place under control. It is a place under fear. In this town, one group holds the power. They are not a cowboy gang. They do not wear masks. They wear coats. They write numbers in books. They shake hands with sheriffs and judges. People will later call them the Dolan Gang. But in their own time, many locals know them by another name, the House. This is the beginning of their story. The story starts far away, across the ocean. In Ireland, around the year 1831, a boy named Lawrence Gustav Murphy is born. He grows up in a country with hard times. Food is short, work is not easy. Many families dream of a different life. As a young man, Murphy leaves his home. He crosses the Atlantic and comes to the United States. Like many immigrants, he wants a chance, he wants respect, money, and a place of his own. Murphy joins the U.S. Army. The uniform gives him food, pay, and power. He learns how the Army works. He learns how commands move down and how people obey. He travels through the West and sees wild land, few laws, and big chances for a clever man. When the Civil War ends, Murphy leaves the Army. But his time as a soldier changes him. He has seen how power is used. He has seen how men give orders and take land. He moves to New Mexico territory. This land is far from the big cities. There are ranches, small farms, and long open spaces. There is also something else. Not many rules, not many courts, not many people to say no. Murphy understands something important. A man does not need a gun in his hand to control others. A man can control them with money. He can control them with debt. He can control them with the law, if the law is his friend. In New Mexico, Murphy meets another Irishman. His name is James Joseph Dolan. Dolan is younger than Murphy. He has also been in the Army. He is smart, quick with numbers, and ready to rise. Murphy sees more than a simple clerk. He sees a partner. The two men decide to build something together in Lincoln County. At that time, Lincoln County is huge. It covers a vast area of New Mexico. Ranchers raise cattle. Small farmers try to live off the land. But there is very little business structure. There are few stores. There are fewer banks. Murphy and Dolan understand the chance. If they can become the main store, if they can become the main source of credit, then people will have to come to them for almost everything. They open a business, L.G. Murphy & Co. It is a general store. It sells food, tools, cloth, and many other things. It also acts like a bank. People can get credit there. They can borrow money or pay later for goods. Soon, the building becomes more than a store. It becomes a symbol. Locals begin to call it the House. Inside the house, ledgers fill with names and numbers. Every number is a debt. Every debt is a small chain. And every chain pulls people closer to Murphy and Dolan. The two men do not stop with just selling goods. They look for bigger contracts. They win deals to supply beef and other food to nearby Army forts and native reservations. This brings large money. It also brings influence with government officials. With money comes more power. Murphy and Dolan grow close to local leaders. They build ties with men in Santa Fe, the territorial capital. They reach out to judges and politicians. They are friendly with Sheriff William Brady, the sheriff of Lincoln County. Soon, business, law, and politics are mixed together. The mix is not equal. The mix favors the house. Life under the house is not the same for everyone. For Murphy and Dolan, times seem good. Money flows. Their names carry weight. For many small ranchers and farmers, life feels very different. They need tools and food. They need ammo and seed. There is often only one real place to get those things. The house, if a family has a bad season and cannot pay cash, they buy on credit. The clerk writes a note. Interest is added. If they cannot pay, the next time the debt grows larger, over months and years, some families fall deeper into debt, some lose cattle, some lose land, some lose their freedom to choose. They may not like the house, but they need the house. Murphy and Dolan also use the law as a tool. If a rancher fights with them, there can be trouble. Maybe the sheriff brings papers. Maybe the court orders a seizure of cattle. Maybe a man who speaks too loudly against the house finds himself in sudden legal problems. The message spreads through the county. It is not printed on a sign. It is not spoken in plain words. But people understand. It is not wise to stand against Murphy and Dolan. Some call them smart businessmen. Others call them a gang in suits. Either way, they are now the center of power in Lincoln County. In this world, a strange kind of fear grows. It is not the fear of bandits in the night. It is the slow, heavy fear of bills, of papers, of names in a ledger book. Men sit at their kitchen tables. They look at their debts. They think about their wives and children. They think about the house. Some feel anger. Some feel trapped. Some whisper that it is not fair for one group to control so much. But for a time, the Murphy-Dolan gang stands strong. Their building rises above the town. Their credit reaches across the land. Their friends sit in offices of law and power. The gang does not know it yet, but change is coming. Somewhere on the road, a new man is on his way to Lincoln. He is young. He is well dressed. He has his own money and his own plans. His name is John Tunstall. When he arrives, he will see the house. He will see the control of Murphy and Dolan, and he will decide to challenge them. That choice will start a chain of events. Those events will lead to gunfire, flames, and war in the streets of Lincoln. They will lift up a young cowboy who will become famous as Billy the Kid. But that is still ahead. The road into Lincoln is long and dusty. One rider moves slowly along, watching the land with sharp, curious eyes. His name is John Tunstall. He is young, in his mid-20s. He wears clean clothes, not the rough kind of an ordinary cowboy. He has good horses, good equipment, and a calm, careful way of looking at everything. He is not from New Mexico. He is not even from America. He is from England. Back home, John has learned business. He understands money. He understands deals. He understands that a smart man does not just work for wages. A smart man owns things. When he comes to New Mexico, he does not come to beg. He comes to build. As John rides into Lincoln, he notices something. The town is small, but one building stands out. It is big, 2 stories tall, with lots of activity around it. Wagons come and go. Men carry sacks, barrels, and boxes. This is the house. This is the base of Murphy and Dolan. John Tunstall hears the stories quickly. Locals tell him in careful voices. They say that if you need food, you go to the house. If you need tools, you go to the house. If you need money, you go to the house. They also say something else, quietly. If the house is against you, you are in trouble. John listens. He hears about high prices. He hears about debts that never seem to end. He hears about Sheriff Brady, who is friendly with Murphy and Dolan. John does not shout. He does not argue. He simply watches and thinks. Soon, he meets a man who will become very important to this story. His name is Alexander McSween. As a lawyer, he has worked for Murphy and Dolan before. He knows how their business is set up. He knows their contracts, their deals, their tricks. But over time, McSween has become unhappy. He does not like how the house treats people. He does not like how the law is bent in one direction only. When McSween meets Tunstall, something clicks. Here is a man with money, energy, and courage. Here is a chance to build something new. They begin to talk. They speak about business. They speak about fairness. They speak about breaking the monopoly of the house. Another powerful figure stands in the background of their plans. He is a famous cattleman named John Chisholm. Chisholm owns huge herds. His name carries weight across the territory. Chisholm also has his own problems with Murphy and Dolan. He does not like their control. He does not like their methods. He sees promise in Tunstall and McSween. He offers support. With his backing, their ideas feel less like dreams and more like real plans. A new line is drawn in Lincoln County, even if no one can see it yet. On one side, the house. On the other side, a new force beginning to form. Tunstall decides to act. He will not just complain about Murphy and Dolan. He will compete with them. He buys land. He sets up a ranch. He starts gathering cattle. He hires cowboys to work for him, including a skinny, quiet young man who will later be known as Billy the Kid. John treats his workers with a different style. He is strict but fair. He pays them. He gives them food and a place to sleep. He talks to them, not just at them. Some cowboys feel loyal to him. They respect this young Englishman who rides with them, works with them, and seems to care. But the ranch is only the beginning. The real challenge is still coming. With the help of McSween, Tunstall opens his own store in Lincoln. It is not as big as the house. It does not have the same long history, but it has something powerful. It offers people a choice. Here, prices are more fair. Here, credit is not used as a weapon. Here, ranchers and farmers feel they can breathe. Just a bit, for the first time in years. The house is not the only place in town where people can buy and sell. To an ordinary customer, this feels like hope. To Murphy and Dolan, it feels like war. Inside the house, the mood changes. Lawrence Murphy is no fool. James Dolan is no fool. They can see what Tunstall is doing. They can see that some of their former customers are now walking across the street to the new store. They can hear the talk in town. People whisper things like, Tunstall treated me fair. Tunstall gave me a better price. Tunstall did not try to trap me in debt. Murphy and Dolan watch these changes with cold eyes. They have spent years building their empire. They have made friends in Santa Fe, in the courts, in the sheriff's office. They will not simply let one young outsider undo everything. Murphy is getting older. His health is not what it once was, but his mind is still sharp and his temper is still strong. Dolan is younger, more active, and just as determined. He has grown up in Murphy's shadow. Now he wants to prove himself as a leader of the business and of the whole faction. Together, they decide Tunstall must be stopped. They do not start with bullets. They start with paper. They look for legal pressure. They examine land titles, debts, and contracts. If they can find a way to hurt Tunstall with lawsuits and claims, they will use it. If they can turn the sheriff against him, they will do that too. On the streets of Lincoln, tension starts to rise. People notice which store you walk into. If you go to the house, some think you support Murphy and Dolan. If you go to Tunstall's store, some think you support the new side. Lines of loyalty begin to form quietly, like cracks in the ground before an earthquake. Cowboys talk in saloons at night. They argue about fairness and power. They argue about money and respect. Some drink with men loyal to Murphy and Dolan. Others drink with men loyal to Tunstall and McSween. In the middle of this, young writers like Billy the Kid learn fast. They see that in Lincoln County, a simple choice of boss can turn into a deadly choice of side. From the outside, Lincoln still looks like a small, calm town. But under the surface, two storms are gathering. On one side, the Murphy-Dolan gang, with the house, the sheriff, and many friends in high places. On the other side, Tunstall, McSween, and their growing group, with new money, new ideas, and the anger of people tired of being controlled. No one knows it yet, but the space between these two sides is growing smaller every day. Soon, it will disappear completely. And when it does, Lincoln County will explode into open violence. The sun rises over Lincoln, but the light does not bring peace. It only shows how divided the town has become. On one side stands the house, the stronghold of Murphy and Dolan. On the other side stands the new store and ranch of John Tunstall and Alexander. Between them is a whole county full of worried people. Ranchers, small farmers, cowboys, and families all feel the tension in the air. Business becomes a kind of battle. When the house lowers its prices, Tunstall's store lowers them too. When the house offers credit, Tunstall offers fairer terms. Each move is watched. Each change is answered. The people in town talk about it over meals and in the streets. Some say the house is finally getting what it deserves. Others fear that this kind of open challenge will not end well. Murphy and Dolan do not like to lose face. They are used to being the center of power. They are used to people bowing their heads and saying, "Yes, sir." Now, a young Englishman stands in their way. He does not bow. He looks them straight in the eye. Inside the house, plans are made in quiet rooms. Murphy is sick more often. His body is weaker, but his will is still hard. He spends time at a desk, reading papers, hearing reports from riders and clerks. Dolan walks in and out, full of restless energy. He rides to ranches. He talks with allies. He reminds people who helped them in the past, who gave them credit when times were hard. Their message is simple. The house has been here for years. The house deserves loyalty. Anyone who chooses Tunstall over them is turning against more than a store. In the eyes of Murphy and Dolan, they are turning against a whole system built by the house. At the same time, another group moves in the shadows. These are not clerks. These are not judges or lawyers. These are hard-riding, hard-drinking men with guns on their hips. Some of them belong to the Jesse Evans gang, known for stealing cattle and causing trouble. Others are part of the Seven Rivers crowd, men from nearby who are quick to anger and slow to forgive. They may not wear badges, but they often work in ways that help the house. They rustle cattle from ranchers who support Tunstall. They stir up fights. They send clear warnings without using official paper or court stamps. Word spreads that these gangs are friendly. With Murphy and Dolan, no one can prove every connection, but many people believe it, and that belief alone is enough to create fear. Meanwhile, Tunstall's side grows stronger to dot at his ranch. Riders come and go. They work cattle, mend fences, and talk late into the night around small fires. Among them is a young cowboy with many names. Some call him Henry Entrim. Later, he will be known as Billy the Kid. For now, he is just another hand. He rides well. He shoots well. He laughs easily, but there is a sharpness in his eyes. He and other cowboys feel loyal to Tunstall. They see him as a fair boss, a man who gives them a chance and treats them with respect. When the men from the house try to push Tunstall around, his cowboys feel it like a personal insult. In the town, the law is supposed to stand above all this. But in Lincoln, the law is not neutral. Sheriff William Brady is seen as a strong supporter of the house. He walks the same streets as Tunstall, McSween, and their men, but he does not walk in the middle. His steps lean toward Murphy and Dolan. When there is a dispute over cattle, Brady's actions often favor the house. When there is a question of land or debt, his choices seem to lean the same way. The new side notices they do not trust him. They see the badge on his chest and think of the house. Behind it, small clashes start to happen. A herd of cattle goes missing from someone friendly to Tunstall. Tracks lead toward men tied to the old faction. Voices rise in anger, but the law does not move in a way that feels fair. A rider loyal to Tunstall is threatened in town. Harsh words are thrown. Hands rest on gun handles. For a moment it looks like someone will draw. Then the moment passes, leaving only more hatred behind. Each event alone seems small, but together they slowly build a terrible picture. Lincoln County is moving closer to open war. In private, McSween warns Tunstall, He explains how far Murphy and Dolan might go. He knows their contracts, their company papers, their habits. He knows that, in the past, they have not been afraid to push people out of their way. Tunstall listens, but he is not azuli scared. He believes in law and order. He believes that his rights can be protected in court. He thinks, perhaps, that reason will win. He thinks that, if he stands firm and follows the rules, he cannot be simply crushed. But in Lincoln County, the rules are not always written on clean paper. Sometimes they are written in fear, in shouting, and in gunfire. Murphy and Dolan begin to mix legal action with physical pressure. They look for ways to claim that Tunstall owes money. They search for technical grounds to seize his cattle. They use their influence to move court orders and writs. On the outside, it looks official. On the inside, it feels like an attack. Tunstall sees that his property is being targeted, not by bandits in the night, but by men with documents and badges. At the same time, rumors grow that certain gunmen, friendly to the house, are looking for chances to humiliate or harm Tunstall's riders. Cowboys begin to travel, armed and alert, eyes scanning every ridgeline dot in the saloons. Talk turns darker. Men speak in low voices about something big coming. Some say Tunstall should back down and leave. Others say the house has finally met its match and will be broken. No one agrees on who will win, but many agree on one thing: there will be blood. The line between business and violence is now paper thin. Every new day brings the county closer to that line. In this growing storm, the Murphy-Dolan gang sits in their stronghold, confident in their connections, their money, and their control of the law. Across from them, Tunstall and McSween hold to their belief in fairness and rights, trusting in their cowboys and their cause. The ground between them is full of fear, anger, and pride. Morning comes to Lincoln County, but the air feels heavy. It is a kind of morning when animals are restless and men speaking low. Careful voices. The fight between the house and John Tunstall is no longer just about prices or pride. Now it is about survival. On one side, the Murphy-Dolan gang grows, more hard and more cold. On the other side, Tunstall and McSween stand firm, but the ground under their feet is starting to shake. Inside the house, papers lie across a desk. Legal documents, claims, orders from the court. Murphy's health is worse, but his mind is still sharp enough to understand one thing. If Tunstall keeps his cattle in his land, the house will lose money and power. James Dolan studies the papers. He has learned well from Murphy. He knows that a court order can be as deadly as a gun if used at the right time. There is talk that Tunstall owes money. There is talk that his animals can be seized to settle a debt. With the right judge and the right pressure, a piece of paper is signed. Now the house has what it wants. A legal reason to send out men to take Tunstall's stock. To carry out this order, they need the sheriff. They need the force of the law. Sheriff William Brady steps into the picture again. In Lincoln County, his badge and his choices often favor the house. A posse is formed. Officially, it is a group sent out to enforce the law and seize Tunstall's animals. On the list are deputies and men sworn in for the job. But among them ride others with a darker name. Members of the Jesse Evans gang join the posse. These are not gentlemen. They are known for stealing cattle, drinking hard, and using their guns without much thought. The line between lawman and outlaw grows very thin. In this posse, the line almost disappears. News of this move does not stay hidden. Tunstall learns that his cattle and horses may be taken in the name of the law. He goes to Alexander McSween. They speak in a quiet room, voices tense and low. McSween warns him again. He explains that this is not just about money, it is about control. He fears that the legal order is only a cover for something worse. Tunstall listens. Inside him, there is a struggle. One part of him believes in the system. He thinks he can argue his side in court. He believes reason, proof, and truth will protect him. Another part of him feels the danger. He has heard how the house uses the law like a weapon. He has seen the kind of men who ride with their friends. But in the end, his belief in fairness is strong. He does not plan to run. He does not plan to surrender everything. He decides to go out and manage his animals himself. At the ranch, cowboys are busy. They saddle horses. They move small groups of animals. They check the land around them, eyes always alert. Among them is the young hand who will one day be known as Billy the Kid. Right now, he is just another rider who respects his boss. Tunstall gives orders in his calm, firm way. He wants some horses. Move to a safer spot. He decides to ride along with a small group. Before he leaves, there is a feeling in the air. It is not spoken, but many feel it. Something is wrong. Something is close. The posse from the house is already gathering. Men check their rifles. They tighten saddles. They laugh, curse, and talk about the job ahead. Some say they are just going to do what the paper says. Take Tunstall's stock. Others speak with a harder edge. They do not hide their dislike for the Englishmen who dared to challenge the house. Among them, Jesse Evans and his rough riders sit their horses like men ready for a hunt. To them, this is more than legal work. It is a chance to show power, to please their friends in Lincoln, and maybe to settle personal grudges. The posse rides out, dust rising behind them. On a stretch of open land, Tunstall and a few of his men move a small group of horses. The sky is pale. The land is wide. The world seems quiet, until it is in quotes. In the distance, riders appear. At first, they are small shapes. Then the shapes grow larger. Dust follows them like a tail. Tunstall and his men notice. They stop. They watch them of his riders feel fear rising in their chests. They know who might be coming. They know what this could mean. There is a quick talk. Tunstall tells some of his men to go on. He does not want a battle. He does not want his cowboys to die in a pointless fight. He chooses to stay with a few horses himself, hoping that his calm behavior will keep things from turning violent. The posse closes in. Now faces can be seen. Now badges can be seen on some chests, and cold eyes under wide hats. The two groups draw near. Words are exchanged. Voices are tight. Tunstall tries to stand on the side of law and reason. He is not waving a gun. He is not charging forward. He is simply there, with his animals, asking for his rights. But the land is full of anger from many past days. The men of the posse are not calm judges. They are riders with guns, and some are eager to use them. What happens? In the next moments will be argued over many times. Some will claim that Tunstall reached for a weapon. Others will swear he did nothing wrong at all. What is sure is simple and terrible. Shots ring out. Tunstall falls from his horse. Bullets tear into him. He dies there on the open range, far from the safety of his store and his friends. The man who dared to challenge the house now lies still in the dust. Later, his body is found by men loyal to him. They see how he was left. They see the clear signs of violence, not a fair struggle. Anger burns in their hearts. Grief mixes with rage. For these men, this is no longer a business dispute. It is not just a fight over cattle or land. It is murder. Word spreads quickly through Lincoln County. People whisper in shock. They killed Tunstall. Some are afraid. If a man like Tunstall can be shot and left on the ground, what chance do simple farmers and cowboys have? Others feel something else rise inside them. They feel a desire for justice. Or, if justice is not possible, then revenge. Among those who feel it strongest is the young rider who worked for Tunstall, the one who rode under him and respected him. Soon, the world will call him Billy the Kid, and he will not forget what happened on that lonely stretch of land. The body of John Tunstall lies cold in a simple room. Candles burn at his side. Faces gather in the dim light, hard faces, grieving faces, angry faces, The young Englishman who came to Lincoln with bright plans and calm courage is now still and silent. Outside, the New Mexico wind moves over the land he tried to claim and protect. Inside, his friends and workers feel something heavy settle in their hearts. It is more than sadness. It is more than shock. It is a promise. Alexander McSween stands. Near the body, hands tight at his sides, he looks at Tunstall's face and remembers their first talks, the hopes, the plans, the belief that law and business could be used in a fair way. Now he sees what happens when law belongs to one side. Only, he sees what happens when a man challenges the house, and its powered dot around him are cowboys and ranch hands who worked for Tunstall. Among them is the young rider who will become famous as Billy the Kid. Right now, he is just one more man staring at his dead boss. Jaw clenched, eyes full of cold fire. No one in that room believes Tunstall died in a fair fight. They believe he was hunted. They believe he was executed. In the days that follow, there is a formal step. A coroner's jury looks into the killing. Witnesses speak. Stories are told. Names like Jesse Evans and other posse members are linked to the death. On paper, it seems like the start of justice. The jury says the killing was not right. It says that certain men should be held for what they did. McSween holds on to this small piece of hope. He believes that the law can still work. He believes that if the right warrants are issued and the right men arrested, Tunstall's death will not be ignored. But Lincoln County is not a place of clean justice. It is a place where the badge often leans toward Murphy and Dolan. When warrants are written for some of the men in the posse, they do not lead to quick arrests. The same power that helped send that posse out now slows everything down, Sheriff. William Brady does not rush to place his hands on those named in Tunstall's killing. The house still stands strong behind him. The men who rode in that posse still feel protected. To Tunstall's friends, it looks like this. The law will not punish the killers. The law will protect them. The hope that McSween placed in the system begins to crack. The men around him see that crack, and their patience starts to break. In quiet meetings, a new idea forms. If the sheriff will not do his job, someone else must. If the law is in the hands of one side, maybe they must become the law themselves. A local justice of the peace and certain officials who are not under the control of the House help take an important step. They deputize some of Tunstall's allies. With this act, a group of riders gains a new name and a new purpose. They are called the Regulators. On paper, they are lawmen, special deputies sent to bring in those responsible for Tunstall's murder. In their hearts, they are also something else. They are avengers. The Regulators are a mix of men. Some are ranch hands and cowboys, tough from long days in the saddle. Some have lived on the edge of the law before. Some, like McSween, still cling to the idea of justice. And then there is Billy the Kid. Young, quick, fearless, he is deeply hurt by Tunstall's death. Tunstall treated him better than many others had. To Billy, this fight is not just about business or politics, it is personal. He rides with the Regulators, gun ready, nerves steady. He is small in size, but not in will. The Regulators set out with a clear goal: find the men who took part in the killing of Tunstall, arrest them if possible, punish them if they resist. They track the land, follow trails, listen to rumors in saloons and camps. They learn where certain men are hiding, or moving, or trying to disappear into the wide spaces of New Mexico. One important target is William Morton, a man who was part of the posse that faced Tunstall. Another is Frank Baker. The Regulators ride hard. They are not just chasing men, they are chasing the feeling that Tunstall's death will not be forgotten. When the Regulators finally catch up to Morton and Baker, tension explodes. Guns are drawn, men shout. For a moment, it looks like there will be a bloody fight on the spot, but something different happens. Morton and Baker agree to surrender, or at least, that is what some say. They are taken as prisoners. Another man, Tom McCloskey, Rides with the group, he is supposed to help watch the prisoners. On the surface, it looks like a victory for law. The regulators have not just shot these men down, they have taken them alive. They plan to bring them in to show that their badge is real, not just an excuse for revenge, but the road back is long and full of strain. The regulators ride with their prisoners. The air between the two sides is full of anger and fear. Words are traded, threats are made. No one fully trusts anyone. Somewhere along that ride, something snaps later. The stories will not match. One version says the prisoners tried to escape, reaching for guns or horses. Another version says the regulators lost patience, and that anger took control. What is known is this: gunshots echo across the land. When the smoke clears, Morton and Baker are dead. So is McCloskey, the man who was supposed to be guarding them. 3 bodies lie on the ground. The line between clean justice and bloody revenge grows even more blurred. News of these deaths spreads like fire through dry grass to the friends of Tunstall. It feels like the first breath of payback. The men who helped kill their boss are now themselves dead. They say it was necessary. They say the prisoners tried to run Dot to the supporters of the house. It is told in a different way. They say the regulators are not lawmen. They say they are killers, using a badge as a mask. Each side tells its own story. Each side believes its own version. In the middle, Lincoln County shakes with fear. People know that this is only the beginning. Once killing starts, it rarely stops quickly. Back in town, Sheriff Brady and the Murphy-Dolan faction feel the change. They are not dealing with quiet shopkeepers anymore. They are not dealing with one English rancher who believes in paper and courtrooms. They are now facing armed men who have already spilled blood in the name of justice for Tunstall. Men who do not trust the existing law. Men who fully believe that the sheriff works for the house, not for the people. The regulators, for their part, feel both proud and restless. They have answered one wrong with another set of deaths. But they know the main fight is not over. Sheriff Brady still wears the badge. Murphy and Dolan still stand behind the house. The old power is wounded, not broken. Lincoln County changes after the birth of the regulators. The air feels sharper, people walk faster and talk quieter. Everyone knows the story now. Tunstall is dead. Some of the men tied to his killing are dead too. The regulators have shown they are not afraid to use guns. For the first time, the power of the house has been openly challenged with bullets, not just with business done inside the house. Anger burns. James Dolan hears the news about Morton and Baker. To him, these men were not just riders. They were part of his side, part of the force that helped keep the house strong. Now they are gone. Killed by men who claim to wear the law. Sheriff William Brady is also furious. The regulators were given some form of legal paper, but they are acting in ways he sees as wild and dangerous. They have taken prisoners and returned with bodies to Brady and the Murphy-Dolan Gang. The message is clear. The regulators are no longer just a group of angry ranch hands. They are a real threat. New papers are written. This time, they are warrants for the regulators themselves. In the eyes of Brady and his backers, men like Billy the Kid, Dick Brewer, and others must now be hunted and arrested. The sheriff's office, which once ignored the killers of Tunstall, now moves quickly against those who have struck back, not too many people watching. The pattern is obvious. When the house's friends kill, the law is slow. When the house's enemies kill, the law is fast. The lines are now drawn deeper than ever. The regulators hear that they are wanted men. They know that Sheriff Brady is coming for them. They know he has the power of official law behind him. They also know, in their hearts, that they will never get fair treatment from him. To them, Brady is not a neutral peacekeeper. He is a shield for Murphy and Dolan. He is a man who stood still while Tunstall died and his killers walked free. The regulators talk in small groups, voices low but firm. Some want to hide or run. Others say it is time to hit back hard. Among the strongest voices is the young rider, Billy the Kid. He is tired of watching his side bleed while the house sits safe behind its walls. Soon, a bold and deadly plan forms. In their minds, it is early morning in Lincoln on a day that will never be forgotten. The town seems calm on the surface. Dogs lie in the dust. A few people move along the street. Smoke rises slowly from chimneys. But behind walls and in hidden spots, the regulators are waiting. They know Sheriff Brady often walks the main street in the morning, checking things, talking to people. They also know he is not expecting an attack. In broad daylight, they choose their positions carefully. They hide behind an adobe wall, near a building that gives them cover and a clear view of the street. Rifles rest in their hands. Hearts beat fast. They are not just cowboys today. They are hunters. Sheriff Brady steps out into the street with some of his deputies. He wears his badge. He moves with the solid walk of a man used to being in charge. He does not know that eyes are watching his every step. Beside him walks Deputy George Hyndman, another man loyal to the house. They talk as they walk. Maybe they speak of warrants. Maybe they speak of the regulators. No one knows the exact words now. What is known is this: they are walking toward the spot where the regulators are hidden in the shadows. The regulators tense. This moment is not like chasing a pair of riders across open land. This is different. This is an attack on the sheriff himself. They know there will be no going back after this. If they fire now, they will cross a line that cannot be uncrossed. But in their minds, the line was already crossed when Tunstall fell. To them, Brady is not an innocent man. He is the face of the law that failed them, and the hand that supports their enemies. A quiet signal passes among them. Fingers tighten on triggers. Suddenly, the street explodes with gunfire. Rifles crack. Bullets tear into the morning air. Sheriff Brady is hit again and again. He is struck in the body and the head. He falls into the dust he has walked for years. Deputy Hyndman also jerks under the force of bullets. He staggers, wounded badly, and collapses. People in town scream and dive for cover. Windows slam shut. Doors swing closed. In a matter of seconds, the calm street has become a killing ground. For a moment, after the shots, there is a strange silence. Thin smoke hangs in the air. From their hiding place, the regulators see Brady's body lying in the road. Some say that Billy the Kid suddenly remembers something. Brady is carrying legal papers that could hurt McSween, their ally. Billy moves from cover and runs toward the fallen sheriff to grab those papers. It is a crazy, brave, and foolish move all at once. As he reaches the body, new shots snap past him. Someone still alive is firing back. Bullets hit around him, and he is nearly killed on the spot. He grabs what he can and runs back to safety. Lucky to be alive. The killing of Sheriff Brady shakes Lincoln County to its core. For the first time, the highest law officer in the area has been gunned down in the street. Not by nameless bandits, but by men everyone knows. Men with faces, names, and a cause. To supporters of the house, this is proof that the regulators are dangerous criminals. They say, look at what they have done. They murdered the sheriff in cold blood. To the regulators and those who stand. With Tunstall's memory, it looks different. They say, Brady stood with Tunstall's killers. He refused justice. Now he has met the same fate he allowed for others. Each side sees only its own truth. The space for peace grows smaller. News of the ambush spreads across the territory. The territorial government cannot ignore this. Killing the sheriff is not a small matter. It is a sign that Lincoln County is out of control. Talk begins of sending stronger authority. There is pressure to bring in new leaders, new laws, maybe even soldiers, to calm the storm. But on the ground, in Lincoln itself, nothing. Feels calm. The regulators know they have now drawn the full anger of the old power. They are wanted men more than ever. At the same time, they feel there is no turning back. They have killed for their cause. They have lost friends and gained enemies. They are in this war until the end, whatever that end may be. Inside the house, grief and rage mix. Murphy is weak, but he hears the news. Dolan is furious, pacing, planning, talking with allies. They see the Regulators as open rebels now. They will answer this attack with even more force. The death of Sheriff Brady is like a loud bell ringing across New Mexico. Everyone hears it. No one can pretend that things in Lincoln County are normal anymore. The Regulators have killed the law. The Murphy-Dolan Gang has lost its shield. Now, both sides know one thing very clearly. This is not just a feud. This is a war. In the weeks that follow, small fights break out across the county. Regulators clash with men loyal to the house on lonely roads and near ranches. Shots are fired. Men fall. Some die quickly. Some crawl away with wounds that will never fully heal. It is as if the whole land is holding its breath, waiting for something even bigger to happen. Inside Lincoln, the tension grows. On one side stand James Dolan and his allies, still using the house as their base. On the other side stand Alexander McSween and the men who have thrown their lot in with the Regulators. In the middle stand the people of the town, who just want to live, but are now trapped between two angry armies. Murphy is now very sick. His body is failing, but his name still carries weight. Dolan begins to act more and more as the main leader. He has a new ally, a man named Colonel Nathan Dudley, the commander at nearby Fort Stanton. Dudley is supposed to stay neutral as an army officer, but his actions will later be questioned by many people. Dolan also has the new sheriff, George Pepin, on his side. Pepin is weaker than Brady in some ways, but he is loyal to the house and ready to fight the Regulators. Together, they start to plan something big, a move that will crush McSween and break the power of the room Regulators once and for all. McSween and his friends are not blind. They know they are in danger. They know that warrants, papers, and official titles are being used against them. They know that Dolan's men want more than just their land. They want them gone or dead. McSween gathers his supporters. Many of them, including Billy the Kid and other Regulators, take shelter in and around his house in Lincoln. It is a large adobe home, strong and solid, with thick walls. To McSween and his men, it feels like a safe place, a last stronghold inside the town. But a stronghold can easily become a trap. The days move toward July 1878. Lincoln grows hot and dry under the summer sun. Then the storm that everyone has felt coming finally arrives. A large group of men loyal to Dolan and the house rides into town. Some carry badges. Some are just hired guns. Some are local toughs from the Seven Rivers area. They gather under the authority of Sheriff Pepin. But behind that badge and that office, the spirit of the house is still there, pushing them forward. They begin to move through Lincoln, taking positions in and around buildings. Windows turn into firing points. Doorways become watch posts. McSween's house, filled with his family and the Regulators, becomes the center of a deadly circle. The Battle of Lincoln begins. For several days, gunfire echoes through the town. Men shoot from windows, doorways, and behind adobe walls. Bullets smash into bricks and wood. Glass shatters. Dust jumps from walls where shots hit. Inside McSween's house, fear and courage mix together. Women and children crouch in corners. Men take turns at the windows, firing at shapes in the distance. Outside, Dolan's forces keep up the pressure. They want to break the defenders, to force them out, or to kill them where they stand. The people of Lincoln hide wherever they can. Some crawl under beds. Some stay in cellars. Some huddle behind thick walls and pray the bullets stay away. The town that once argued quietly about which store to use is now a battlefield. The name of Murphy and Dolan is spoken with anger by some, with fear by others. The Regulators, once seen as a small group of angry cowboys, are now locked in a major fight that could cost many lives. On the streets, dead animals lie where they fell. The smell of gun smoke hangs in the hot air. No one walks around without thinking of death as the days of shooting go on. Dolan's side looks for a way to end the standoff. They know that simply trading bullets could last a long time. They need something stronger. Something that will force McSween out of his hiding place. That something is fire. On the final day of the battle, men on Dolan's side move toward buildings near McSween's house. They start fires, using dry wood, brush, and anything else that will burn. Flames begin to crawl up walls and across roofs. Smoke rises into the sky, dark and thick. Soon, the fire reaches McSween's home itself. Inside the house, the heat grows. Smoke curls along the ceiling, then drops lower. Children cry, women cover their faces with cloth, men cough and wipe sweat and soot from their eyes. They can no longer simply hide and shoot back. The fire is a new enemy, one they cannot defeat with guns. If they stay, they will burn. If they run out, they will face bullets. McSween has a terrible choice to make. The regulators talk quickly, voices tight with fear and urgency. Some say they should try to break out through the dark, through backways and alleys. Others say they should run together in one direction and hope to break the line outside. Dolan's men wait with rifles ready. Finally, the moment comes when they can no longer stay inside. The house is burning, flames crackle and roar, pieces of the roof fall. The heat is like an open oven. McSween, his friends, his family, and the regulators prepare to rush out. They say quick prayers, they grip their guns, they look at one another, knowing that some of them will not live through the next. Few minutes, then they move. They rush from doors and windows into the smoke-filled yard and onto the street. Gunfire answers them immediately. Men fall. Some are hit and die where they stand. Others stumble, wounded, trying to crawl to safety in the chaos. Billy the Kid and a few others manage to break through using speed, confusion, and the cover of smoke and dust. They run, duck, and disappear into the maze of buildings and alleys, then finally out of town. But Alexander McSween is not so lucky. As he tries to escape the burning house, he is shot and killed. The man who once believed in law and fair play dies in the dirt of the town he tried to change. The fire continues to eat what is left of his home, turning wood and cloth into ashdot. When the smoke finally clears, the Battle of Lincoln is over. Dolan's side still stands in the town. Their enemies are dead, wounded, or on the run. The house of McSween is a black, smoking ruin. To the Dolan Gang, this looks like victory. They have driven out their main rival. They have broken the core of the opposition inside Lincoln. The regulators are scattered. Their leaders are dead or hiding. The house still stands, but this victory comes with a price. The town has seen buildings burn. The town has seen friends and neighbors shot in the streets. The law has become a weapon, not a shield. And the story of what happened will not be told only by Dolan's side. When the guns finally fall quiet after the Battle of Lincoln, the town does not feel like a place of victory. It feels like a graveyard. Smoke hangs in the air. Walls are black with soot. Houses are broken, their doors kicked in, their windows shot out. People move like ghosts in the streets. They step around burned wood and dry blood. They whisper, not because they want to, but because normal voices feel wrong in a place that has seen so much death. The Dolan faction has won the battle. But the cost of that win is high, and the price is only beginning to show. Inside, what remains of the house, things are not as strong as they look from outside. Lawrence Murphy is now very sick. The illness that has slowly eaten at him is worse. He coughs, he grows thinner, his strength is fading. He hears about the burning of McSween's house, the deaths of McSween and others, and the escape of Billy the Kid and some regulators. He knows his side came out on top in this fight, yet there is no joy on his face. He has been in the West a long time. He knows that every act leaves a trace. The fire, the killings, the destruction, these things will not just disappear. With Murphy weak, James Dolan stands more clearly as the leader of the old faction. He should feel powerful. He survived the war. His main business rival is dead. His side still has control in Lincoln. But even as he walks through the town, he can see that something has changed. People stare at him quietly. Some look away when he passes, as if they do not want to meet his eyes. Some still greet him, but the warmth is gone. They are looking at a man they believe helped push the county into a war that burned their town and killed their neighbors. The news of what happened in Lincoln does not stay in Lincoln. Stories travel on horses, on wagons, and in letters. They move to Santa Fe, the territorial capital, and then beyond. People in power hear that a rancher and merchant, John Tunstall, was killed by a posse tied to the old power. A group called the Regulators formed and killed several men, including the sheriff. A whole town became a battlefield. A house full of people was burned while men tried to escape. These are not small stories. They are proof that Lincoln County is not under control. Washington and Santa Fe do not like hearing about such chaos. It makes the territory look weak. It makes the government look foolish. New eyes now turn toward the Murphy-Dolan faction. Before, they were useful friends of the system. They held contracts, handled money, and supported certain politicians. Now, they look more like the center of a storm. Their names are tied to war, death, and destruction. Some officials begin to quietly shift their distance. They do not attack Dolan directly. They do not shout against the house, but they also do not rush to protect them the way they once did. Support that was once firm becomes a little softer, a little slower. In Lincoln itself, fear and sorrow settle into daily life. Families bury their dead. Some leave the area entirely, tired of living in a place where every argument can turn into a gunfight. Those who stay try to rebuild. They repair walls. They fix roofs. They try to bring back normal business. But there is a kind of invisible line in the town now. Some people are seen as Dolan's men. Others are seen as McSween's people or Regulator friends. Even someone walking into the wrong saloon can be dangerous. Old wounds lie just under the skin. The Regulators, once a strong group, are now scattered. Some are dead, some are hiding. Some have ridden far from Lincoln, hoping to start life over somewhere else. But a few names will not fade so easily. One of them is Billy the Kid. He continues to ride, to fight, and to cause trouble for the old faction. Legends already start to grow around him. Stories of close escapes, quick draws, and daring acts. Every time Billy appears in a story about Lincoln County, the Murphy-Dolan faction appears too, as the dark power on the other side. Back in the heart of the old empire, Murphy's health finally fails. The man who once wore the uniform of the U.S. Army, who built the house, who ruled over credit and land, now lies weak in his bed. He has money, he has property, he has a name known across the county, but he also has a legacy covered in the smoke of burned homes and the blood of a local war. When he dies, later in 1878, he leaves more than land and business to Dolan. He leaves them the weight of their choices. Now, Dolan stands alone at the front of the old power. He continues to run business. He deals in cattle and land. He takes over much of what once belonged to Tunstall, and later, parts of the McSween estate through legal fights and deals. On paper, this looks like success. The rival is gone. Much of the property has fallen into his hands. But success on paper is not the same as respect in hearts. Many locals see him as the winner of a crooked game. They know his side helped bring gangs, armed posses, and fire guns in the streets. They know that the fairness they hoped for died with Tunstall and McSween. Dolan himself is not a simple villain in his own mind. He believes he fought for his business and his rights. He believes he defended what he and Murphy built over years of work. He sees himself as a man who used the tools he had: law, friends, and sometimes hired guns in a hard place in a hard time. But history is not written only by what a man thinks of himself. It is written by what others remember. And more, when people tell the story of Lincoln County, their focus is not on Dolan as a builder, it is on Dolan as a part of the machine that crushed others. Time moves on. Billy the Kid is chased, captured, escapes, and finally killed by Pat Garrett. His legend grows large, stories full of drama, danger, and young defiance. In those stories, the Murphy-Dolan faction is the background force, the old, heavy power that the young outlaw pushed against. People talk about the corrupt law, the unfair business, the men in the house who sparked the conflict. Songs, books, and later movies turned the Lincoln County War into a symbol of the Wild West, a place where power, greed, courage, and rebellion all clashed. Dolan's name appears in these tales, but rarely as a hero. In the quiet after the war, something important becomes clear. The Murphy-Dolan Gang did not just fight their enemies, they also damaged their own future by pushing so hard, using a law like a weapon, hiring rough men, and allowing violence and fire to swallow a town. They turned many people against them. They got land, they got contracts, they won key battles, but they lost trust, they lost sympathy, and in the long run, they lost control over how their story would be told. The guns of the Lincoln County War have mostly gone silent, but the echoes remain. They live in burned walls, in empty chairs at family tables, and in the memories of everyone who survived. Years begin to pass. The great fires are out, the big battles are over, but the story of the Murphy-Dolan Gang is not finished yet. With Lawrence Murphy dead, James Dolan stands as the main figure of the old faction. On paper, his position looks strong. He controls large pieces of land, he has cattle, he has business connections, he has money. Many parts of the old Tunstall and McSween properties are now in his hands, won through legal fights, deals, and the chaos of the war. If someone looked only at deeds and documents, they might say, Dolan won. But the land does not tell the whole story. People do. In Lincoln County, the mood around Dolan is mixed and tense. Some men still stand close to him. They remember the credit he once gave, the contracts he shared, the chances he provided. They say it was a hard time. Dolan did what he had to do. Others see him very differently. They look at the burned ruins of McSween's house in their memory. They remember the shots in the street, the dead sheriff, the bodies of friends. They say none of this would have happened if the house had not pushed so hard. When Dolan rides through town or visits a ranch, he is treated with respect on the surface. But behind closed doors, people talk, and their words are not kind, not far, away from the heavy desk and ledgers of the house. Another story is taking shape, the story of Billy the Kid. He is no longer just a cowboy who worked for Tunstall. He has become an outlaw hunted by sheriffs, written about in newspapers. Billy rides through the territory, sometimes stealing cattle, sometimes fighting, sometimes laughing with friends in rough saloons. He is captured once, then escapes in a daring way that will later be told again and again, with more drama added each time. Finally, he is tracked down and killed by Sheriff Pat Garrett. His life ends young, but his story does not. Writers and storytellers begin to shape his image. Some make him a villain, others make him a sort of hero, a young man pushed into violence by a corrupt system and powerful men. In almost every version of that story, the shadow of the Murphy-Dolan Gang is there in the background. As years roll on, the legend begins to harden. Billy the Kid becomes a symbol of the Wild West, wild, free, dangerous, and tragic. His photo, with the crooked hat and calm eyes, becomes famous. People say his name with a mix of fear and excitement. They tell stories of his speed with a gun, his quick grin, his narrow escapes. But when people talk about Murphy and Dolan, the feeling is different. There is no excitement, no romance, only cold discussion. They are the ones who own the store. They are the ones who control the law. They are the ones who, in many minds, started the chain of events that led to the war. Meanwhile, Dolan's own life moves on in a quieter way. He continues in the cattle business. He deals with lawyers, bankers, and ranchers. He wins some fights and loses others. From the outside, he looks like a successful Western businessman, not a gunfighter, not an outlaw, but a man who managed land and money. But the war never fully leaves him. It sits in the background of every room he enters. It walks behind him when he visits town. It rides with him when he crosses old battlegrounds, places where men died for land, credit, and pride. The county itself slowly changes. New people move in who did not see the war. To them, the burned houses are just old stories. The names Tunstall, McSween, Murphy, and Dolan are things they hear from older voices. But for those older voices, the pain is still there. Some lost sons, some lost fathers, some lost homes. They might trade with Dolan, they might sit in the same church or pass him on the same road. But when they go home at night, they remember how life felt before the house grew so powerful, and how it felt when that power broke the county in half. As time goes by, the world outside New Mexico changes, railroads come, new towns rise. The old style of the frontier begins to fade. The Lincoln County War, once a living, burning crisis, becomes a thing in history books. Some people try to explain it as a simple fight over cattle contracts and store credit. Others say it was about greed and corruption. Others still say it was about pride. Men who could not step back, who had to just keep pushing. But the details of Dolan's deals and Murphy's ledgers start to matter less to people far away. What they remember most clearly is the shape of the story, a powerful business group that controlled the town, a new challenger who tried to bring fairness, a killing that started a war, a young gunslinger who rose from that war and became a legend. Dolan grows older. His hair turns gray. His body slows down. He is no longer the sharp, restless partner walking in and out of the house with papers and plans. He is a rancher with a history that cannot be washed away. When he dies in 1898, he leaves property and wealth behind. He also leaves questions. Did he ever feel regret? Did he ever lie awake at night and see the faces of the men who died in the war? Did he ever think about Tunstall, about McSween, about the townspeople caught in between? No one can know for sure. The records tell us what land he owned when he died and where he is buried. They do not tell us what he felt when he closed his eyes. What history does show is this: the Murphy-Dolan gang did not vanish in a single dramatic moment. They did not fall in a big shootout or lose everything at once. Instead, their power slowly thinned out over time. The house that once stood so tall lost its fear in people's hearts and became just another old building. Their names moved from living memories to dusty pages. But the legend they helped create, the chaos of Lincoln County, the war, the outlaw with the baby face, only grew stronger. Years have passed since the last gunshot of the Lincoln County war. The dust of that time has settled. The fires are out. The men who fought on both sides are gone. But the story of the Murphy-Dolan gang still lives. It lives in history books. It lives in museum walls. It lives in the way people talk about the Wild West. Now it is time to step back and look at the full picture. The story begins with Lawrence Murphy, an Irish boy who crossed the ocean, a soldier who learned how power works in the army, a man who saw in New Mexico a land with few rules and many chances. He built a house, a strong business in Lincoln. He sold goods. He gave credit. He held contracts with the army. Beside him stood James Dolan, younger, sharp, quick to learn, ready to take over when Murphy grew weak. Together, they created more than a store. They created a system. If you wanted food, tools, or money in Lincoln County, you often needed them. At first, it looked like success. Then it began to look like control. Then it began to feel like a chokehold. Into this world came John Tunstall, the young Englishman. He saw a town where one group held too much power. He saw ranchers and farmers who were trapped by debt and fear. With Alexander McSween and the support of John Chisholm, he opened a rival store and ranch. He offered fairer prices. He treated his workers with more respect. He gave people something dangerous in a place ruled by one power: a choice. That choice is what turned business competition into something darker. To Murphy and Dolan, Tunstall was not just another merchant. He was a threat to everything they had. Built, they answered with legal pressure, hired gunmen, and a hard push to crush him. On that lonely day in February, when a posse with legal papers and outlaw riders killed Tunstall on the open range, the story changed forever. A man of business became a martyr. His death lit the fuse of the Lincoln County War. His friends and workers, including the young cowboy who would be known as Billy the Kid, formed the Regulators. They carried badges, but also carried rage. They hunted the men tied to his killing. They killed some of them. They killed Sheriff Brady in the street. Law itself split into two sides: the official law, shaped by the House, and the other law, carried on the rifles of the Regulators. Lincoln County became a place where justice and revenge looked almost the same. The Battle of Lincoln burned this conflict into the ground. On one side, Dolan's men and their allies. On the other side, McSween, his family, his friends, and the Regulators. For days, bullets flew through the town. Then came the fire. Flames ate through buildings. Smoke filled the air. When McSween's burning house finally forced its people to flee, guns waited outside. McSween died in the dirt. Some Regulators, including Billy the Kid, escaped through smoke and confusion. The Murphy-Dolan faction stood at the end with the stronger hand. Their main rivals in town were dead or gone. The house still stood, but the victory was not clean. It was covered in ash and blood. From that point on, the Murphy-Dolan Gang was not seen as just business owners. They were seen as the power behind a war that turned a small town into a battlefield, a war that sent men to early graves, a war that gave birth to one of the West's most famous outlaws. Lawrence Murphy soon died, sick and worn out. James Dolan stayed and fought in courts and on paper, gathering land and property. He kept money, he kept status, but he could not keep something else: a good name in the hearts of the people, too many. He was the man who won on paper and lost in honor. At the same time, the legend of Billy the Kid grew. He became the face people remembered, not Murphy in his coat, not Dolan at his desk, but a thin, young cowboy with a gun and a crooked hat. Stories made Billy larger than life. They talked about his quick draw, his escapes, his laughter in the face of danger. Sometimes they forgot the pain and fear around him, but they did not forget where his story began, in Lincoln County. Under the shadow of the house, the Murphy-Dolan Gang did not write their own legend. They built a stage for someone else's. When people today stand in modern Lincoln, New Mexico, they can still see pieces of this past. Old adobe buildings, historical markers, the quiet streets where once there were gunfights and flames. Guides tell visitors about the Regulators, about Billy the Kid, about the burning of McSween's house. They talk about Tunstall, the Englishman who tried to challenge unfair power, and they talk about Murphy and Dolan, not as dramatic gunfighters, but as something more familiar: powerful men who use money, law, and influence to control the lives of others. That is one of the deepest truths of this story. The Murphy-Dolan Gang shows that a gang is not always made of masked riders and bank robbers. Sometimes, a gang is a store that controls prices and credit, a bank that decides who eats and who starves, a sheriff who answers to one side only, a circle of politicians and judges who close their eyes to unfairness. Murphy and Dolan did not ride into town firing guns. They built their power step by step, through debts, contracts, and friendships in high places. They believed they were right to protect what they had built. They believed force was justified. But in pushing so hard, they created the very storm that would stain their names forever. The lesson of their story is not trapped in the past. Whenever one group controls the money, the law, and the story people hear, the ground becomes dangerous. People, under that kind of power, feel trapped. They feel angry. Some will try to fight back with courts and votes. Others, like the men in Lincoln County, may one day pick up guns. The Lincoln County War shows what happens when business, politics, and justice are no longer separate, and when no one is strong enough to stop the slide into violence. In the end, the Murphy-Dolan Gang gained much and lost more. They gained land, cattle, and contracts. They lost the trust of many. They lost a chance to be remembered as builders. History did not give them the role of heroes. It gave them the role of the hidden villains in someone else's legend. Their choices helped create Billy the Kid. Their war helped turn a small town into a symbol of the wild, lawless West. And so their names remain not on bright posters or proud monuments, but in the background of a dark and powerful story